Electrocast.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Clementine Moss is the founder and drummer of Zepparella, with a busy solo career as a singer and songwriter. She is also a spiritual counsellor and a non-denominational minister at the Foundation for the Sacred Stream. Using the modalities of Depth Hypnosis, applied Shamanism, energy medicine, sound healing, and Morphic Awakening techniques, Clem has an active healing practice. She is certified in Contemplative Psychotherapy and conflict resolution. A Vipassana meditator for over 30 years, her study and personal practice spans many traditions. She lives in San Francisco with music manager and musician Tim Moss and Henry the Pug. Her writing has appeared in Memoir Magazine, Memoir Magazine, and several other online publications. I found this conversation enlightening, thought-provoking, and incredibly connected, and I hope you do too. Welcome, Clementine, to the Ethical Evolution.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. Now, you're joining us in San Francisco, and we've just discovered it's Fleet Week, so there could be some plane activity in the background, but that's all going to be part of the fun today. So thank you for joining us. Now, Clementine, for those people who've been living under a rock and don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
Sure. Let's see. So I wear many hats in this incarnation. I am a musician. I'm a drummer in hard rock bands. The main band that I kind of make my living with is a Led Zeppelin band. And I've done that. That band has been around for the last 20 years. And I'm also a spiritual counselor and shamanic practitioner. And I also just put out a book called From Bonham to Buddha and Back. And the book, it combines those two endeavors in my life, the contemplative practice and the hard rock drummer practice. And I wrote about how I see a lot of the same lessons in both of those paths.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was kind of trying to put the threads together in my head, between drumming and spirituality, even at a base level. And I guess when you think of, the pure tribal vibration of a drum, that is a very clear connection for me. But do you want to delve into that for us, Clementine, and tell us, first of all, how you got behind the drum kit and how the two connected?
Yeah. Well, it's part of my, my story, my life story, which is that around 27 years old, I was living in New York City, and I considered myself a writer, but I wasn't really writing. I was sort of floundering around trying to figure out who I was, and I took a drum lesson, and drums just kind of overtook my life. And in that same year, I went to my first 10-day silent meditation retreat. And so those two paths, I had kind of a big experience at that meditation retreat. And I really had been a spiritual seeker for quite a long time in my life. I always liked the big questions. And so, right around the time I found meditation, I found drumming, and I thought they were two separate paths in my life. And then as time has gone on, the 30 years later, I really realized how connected the two are. And, when you think about drumming, the tribal drumming, the drum is one of the first, images that were ever, that are ever seen in artwork from long, long ago. And it was most of the time women who were drumming. There's an amazing book called When the Drummers Were Women. Of course, the name of the author is I'm blanking on that, but she was an amazing woman who kind of traced back the origins of the drum and saw that, for tens of thousands of years, it was women who were drumming. And then as we kind of came into a more modern age and, with, the different focus being more patriarchal than matriarchal, the drum became something that wasn't looked at as a female instrument. So it's pretty neat to see that we're kind of coming full circle with that now.
And especially in like heavy kind of rock bands, it's always had a very male focus, hasn't it? And but there are some women out there who really smash it, like, and it's so good to see because they approach it in a whole different way. Like it's a very, very powerful thing to watch. When a woman's behind the drum kit in a band, I think it's really cool.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's different. I feel like rock and roll, especially heavy rock and roll, it's still. It's really hard. There's still kind of a bit of a glass ceiling, I think, for women in that in the music industry. Period. Unless you're a singer, it's more difficult to get work. But that's really changing. Daily. I think. So certainly in the time that I've been playing, it's changed quite significantly. So yeah, it's great.
And if people want to hear you on the Skins, where can they listen?
Well, let's see. Zepparella has a pretty big YouTube presence, and then my website is clemthegreat.com, and on there you see kind of all aspects of my personality. I'm also sing and write songs, so I have different musical projects where I'm at the front of the stage. And then the other projects that I've played drums in, and then the spiritual counseling and the book is all on there. It's kind of the hub, my hub of Clem.
Love it. And for you, how would you describe the spiritual side of you now inspiring the creative side of you? So, how do you tap into that to produce music and to sing?
Yeah, it's so interesting because several years ago I began studying. I started off in a contemplative psychotherapy program, studying like Buddhist psychology, and then I started studying the shamanic work at the Foundation for the Sacred Stream in Berkeley, California, with the teacher Isa Gucciardi. She's an amazing teacher who has created a modality called Depth Hypnosis, which combines Buddhism, shamanism, and the Western psychological method in a really beautiful modality. And so when I started studying that, I just became just dove right in. I mean, my first class, the drum came out for the shamanic journey, and suddenly I felt like I was coming to a place I'd been coming to for 30 years, right? Where everything in my life united. And I got very excited about the study and then got all the certificates and went through all the programs very quickly because I was so excited about it and started working with people. And then a funny thing happened, which was that I just felt this enormous creative outflow. And so I still work with clients, but not as much as I anticipated. When I was studying that, I thought, okay, I'm going to be, working with people all day long, 5 days a week. And suddenly I realized I really needed to carve out time for this creative energy that was coming through me. And I've heard from other people who study this kind of work that when you tap into this, especially when you're working with other people and you're trying to become that hollow bone, where you're allowing spirit to move through you, what can really happen is that your true creative spark, your true energetic flow, it opens up even more, and it kind of wants to go in the direction that it's meant to go. And for me, I've always had a big, need for creative output, no matter what stage of my life I was in, and somehow that kind of, I tapped into that even more. And so what I thought, I felt like myself just kind of pulling myself into balance, right? So it's not, I don't do all the counseling all the time. I don't do all the drumming all the time. I don't do all the songwriting or the writing. It's like I carve out space every day for a bit of each of it. And that seems to be the way I'm supposed to work.
I love that. And, I've spoken to many people where they've just become this vehicle for the creativity to flow through them, and they've gone and recorded entire albums, without a single thought. It's just completely just flowed through them, and it's just this divine intervention that's got, a download for them, and it's just produced something magnificent, and for me, I have a very similar thing. Like this whole podcast and what I do was a divine download. Like I am a vehicle for these messages. And so this is effortless for me. And no doubt you'd find the same, is that in that creativity, it is effortless and you get the answers you need whenever you tap into that, and you get out of the way. And you trust in your intuition and connect with yourself. Those are the big things I find as well. When you get out of the way and you actually clear that channel for the communication to come through, wow, the stuff you can produce is incredible.
That's an amazing way to say it. Yeah. And I notice when my energy feels like it gets lowered by what I'm doing. For me, that always has to do with promoting myself, right?
Yeah.
I'm just terrible at that kind of stuff. And when I understand that part of my job is, being on social media to be able to let people know what's happening and, all of that, connect and all of that. And it's, I find myself kind of laughing at myself because I see the dread rise up in me as I have to sit down and do these things. And I'm like, but this is a part of it, and finding the time of the day where I feel like it's not taking my energy away from the other things that really feel like, those parts that I'm enthusiastic about, and then just being enthusiastic about being able to complete the thing that I know needs to be done, kind of like doing my taxes.
It's like having that self-awareness of, what you're good at and what you're not, and maximizing it, whenever you can.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Now, getting back to the shamanic part of what you do and what you tap into now, and relating that back to drumming, drumming can be very healing. Like when we talk about drumming circles and, in the shamanic use, my experience has been through sound healing. Where a drum can be actually very healing. It can clear the energy. It can clear pain that's being stored in the body. And no doubt you'd see that in the shamanic work that you do too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's sound is really powerful, both with the voice and with instruments. The drum, we know the drum can induce a trance state, the repetitive sound of a drum. And so that is the foundation of any shamanic journey that I do, is with the drum leading that. But then when it comes to healing, I've gotten some kind of, in my own journeys, I've gotten a lot of kind of downloads, and in my dreams, I get downloads of what it would, how to use sound. I think just because that's, a way of, that's always on my mind, I guess. I like the idea of guiding someone into a way that they can be in their own journey, their own shamanic journey, and ask their guides to bring the sound to where they need healing. And that way, I'm both holding the space, and I'm connected with my guides, and I'm kind of moving. If I'm in that state that I'm in when I'm working with people, I am very kind of merged with guidance, right? And stepping out of the way of Clem's conscious critical mind, and in that place, music is the sound is coming through, right? Without a lot of thought to it and thought of how to do it. And I like the idea of me working with my guides to play what I'm being called to, and allowing the client to work with their guides to bring the sound into the places where healing needs to happen. I like that collaboration. And I have done work where I'm the person and the other person is just very relaxed. And I think that can, that's helpful as well. Any, traditional shamanism is where the shaman is going on the journey, right? And bringing it back, bringing the soul part or the power back to the client. But in the way that Isa teaches in the depth hypnosis idea is that what I'm doing is I'm helping the client become their own shaman, find their own healing, and leading them to understand that. And I think in that way, that kind of sound healing, I think is can be really profound because it's more personal.
It'd be an incredible journey.
Yeah. Very lovely. So yeah, I think that's always developing, more and more in my own work.
Now, I also do music production on the side, Clem, and have done for many years, and was a radio DJ for a little while. And the music that you hear on this podcast, I created and produced. So, and have done for many other podcasts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited by that. Oh, that's wonderful, Vivi. Oh, that's great.
So I'm not trying to blow my trumpet here or anything, but I've done a lot of research into the science behind music because I'm a bit of a nerd like that, right? So I love to tap into the heart coherence that you can get when you produce music at a certain beats per minute. And there's an actual science where, when someone connects with a particular beat at a particular frequency, all this kind of stuff, their heart beat can match that beat. That blows my freaking mind.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. And so this is where music can actually be a medicine, can't it?
It's a medicine. And I wonder how much when we're with others, our heartbeats begin to match.
Yes.
And then if we're in a room of other people listening to music and we have that moment where we just feel like we're one, with everybody, to me, I love being on stage. And I love being on stage, not because I feel like me, I feel like I love being on stage because I love conveying that feeling that I have with when I'm playing music, when I'm singing, when I'm telling a story, that feeling. I love to be affecting and helping people connect to that because it's joy to me. It really is joy. Even if I'm playing, a hard rock, even if I'm playing immigrant song, a Led Zeppelin immigrant song, even I used to be in a stoner rock band, even though I was playing like really hard double kick drum and stuff, like we're still all together there, we're still lifted up. And I've never been one to really believe that, that certain music is intrinsically negative, even, of course, words have power. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about musically. I feel like, if the person listening somehow feels transformed in a positive way, then I feel great. Then that's the music for them. So I think all music is of benefit, and if it lifts, if it lifts us up.
I reckon we should do a study at one of your shows, Clem, and put heart rate monitors on people and see if they all match by the end of the night.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Wouldn't that be cool?
Wouldn't it be amazing? It would be really, really cool. Well, certainly, the sound waves are moving through light waves, which are moving through our systems and our molecules, and who knows what's happening as that carries around between us. So yeah.
And as a performer, I can completely resonate with the joy that you get out of just doing it. I also play guitar and keyboard, and like when you nail it, like you really nail it on guitar and you're just in the zone, like you don't even have to think about the notes, you don't have to think about the positioning or anything, and you're just like on the journey of it, and you're just with the instrument and you're feeling it. Like that is like a drug. That is like such joy for me to just play the guitar and get it right and enjoy it, like that for me. I totally get what you mean about loving being on stage. I just play it for myself, love it, and then if other people hear it, great, but it's like I totally resonate with that, and it is like a drug. If you create something amazing and you're just on that journey going with it in the flow, so good.
Well, and going back to, how that connects to contemplative practice, right? I mean, that's where we are. We're in the moment, when we're letting go of our conscious critical mind, when we're not thinking we're doing it wrong or we're chasing something or looking for something, in those beautiful moments where we really are awareness. There's nothing but awareness. That is being outside of time in a way. We're not anticipating something coming forward. We're not looking back to the past to try to recreate something. We're just in it. And that is kind of the basis of why I started writing about this stuff, about this connection between the two. That, on the outside, it looks like, how can hard rock, how can John Bonham, who is a very strong personality in rock and roll, how can he have something to do with, Buddhism or, contemplative practice? But it doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside. It's finding that space of now, within every moment. And I think you said it really well.
And, if we look at the big pop stars nowadays, and the documentaries they do behind the scenes, like, they have a lot of them have a moment of prayer before they jump on stage, or, just a moment where they all connect with each other before they get on stage, so that they're all in that same energy and space. So on some level and some degree, there's some awareness that they tap into before they get out and perform.
Well, and you probably know this for yourself too, but I mean, being a musician, it is there are a lot of moments where you really are connecting to your inner world. You're sitting and you're practicing things over and over and over and falling into meditative states. You're watching your mind try to battle, especially for people who have stage fright or feel like, why am I even doing this? Or, you're battling those kind of, the mind, the trickiness of the mind, in order to fall into that flow state that is present. You're putting off, you're doing something that really puts off gratification for quite a long time. I mean, you pick up an instrument and try to play something, it's going to be a little while before you're happy with what it is. And you're looking at all of your internal world and trying to navigate those things. It makes for people who I think are able to really look at that stuff within themselves, and also to realize the connection. I mean, I know if my band doesn't do our pre-show ritual, which takes about 2 minutes and is a secret little thing that we do, if we don't do that before we get on stage, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like we haven't had that moment to really just be like, me, we're here we are. Right? So it
just shows again, connection is so important, particularly like if you're playing in a band and you all got to be on time and in tempo and together and, actually nail it. Like you've got to be connected to each other before you start.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I could talk about this stuff all day, Clem. It is
Me too.
exciting, exciting stuff. But for those people who want to grab your book, do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. It's called From Bonham to Buddha and Back, The Slow Enlightenment of the Hard Rock Drummer. And I started writing it in 2016 as little blog posts, and then decided, okay, well, I'll just collect those into one big book. And then I realized, oh no, actually I have to write a whole bunch more to make it into a book. It wasn't as easy as that. But it came out in February of this year. It's available on Amazon. It's also available on Audible as an audiobook. I read it myself. And it's broken up into 100 small vignettes, and there are several themes. One of them is what we've been talking about, the connection between spirituality and playing music. There are some road stories in there. There's the story of what I was doing and how I decided at 27 that I was going to devote my life to a musical instrument that I had never played before. It's a bit of a love letter to my father, who never got to see me play, died young, and but was kind of taught me how to love music. And it's also I talk a lot about some of the things that I needed to overcome as far as that internal negative voice that told me that megaphone of negativity that had been pumping into me since puberty, and a little bit about that journey too. Yeah.
Amazing. And I know you mentioned your website earlier, but for those who missed it and want to catch it again, do you want to share your website and socials for us?
Sure. It's clemthegreat.com, and social media, I'm on Clementine Moss on Facebook, and I think Clem the Great on Instagram. So yeah, Clementine. And then Zepparella is Zepparella, and our YouTube channel has some lessons on there too, to how to learn Led Zeppelin songs on each band member.
That's amazing.
Did that for their individual instruments. So we take when the levee breaks, and everybody kind of shows how to do that. And
that is so cool.
Yeah, I know. So yeah,
I love that. Around. Now, Clem, I got the last big question for you. What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
I really believe that to be able to see people, and even those who are behaving very badly, to be able to see people as intrinsically good and divine, I think is our way forward. I think when we other people, when we say that they're no good, when we say that there's no hope for somebody, when we say that that person needs to, be shunned or shamed or put outside of things, I think we are in danger of putting ourselves in darkness. And that's really difficult. And of course, I'm not a Buddha. I don't do that all the time. But I do really one-on-one try my best to see each person as worthy of my attempt to see the light in them, and to see them with the compassion. And I really don't think there's any other way that we're going to move forward. I really don't.
And even for the most enlightened of us, that is a very conscious practice that we have to do, isn't it? Because our mind is so programmed to judge people and to have negative thoughts and sometimes not be nice. And it is a conscious thing that you have to practice.
Yeah, and some people, they really probably shouldn't be walking around with us.
Yes.
Right? Some people are truly so damaged, that it's not safe for them to be walking around. But again, it's damage, right? I do believe it's damage. I don't believe any baby is born intrinsically bad. I just don't. I can't. And I am of the belief that everything is divine. If one thing is outside of God, then nothing is God. God is all, right? So I just, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but the more compassion that we can show to the person who maybe isn't, the mass murderer, but is the guy who cut you off in traffic, or the guy who's being selfish or narcissistic, all those things that we see, to try to see into the suffering at the base of that, I think.
And, it's something that comes up a lot in this show is that, our unity is in our struggle, because we've all got a story. It's just a different perspective, So if we could just take a moment to look at someone else's perspective instead of constantly our own and judging others, maybe they've got a story and maybe they're dealing with some stuff too.
That's right. And everybody is. Everybody is. I mean, the person that you think is the biggest blowhard, if you really listen to what they're saying, if you really look at what they're doing, you can see into their suffering. And, and then a conversation can be had, it's, people energetically feel when you're judging them and when you're avoiding them, and, to really, work to be present with people. And the way we do that is we don't take on other people's suffering. We work to understand our own suffering, and we become empowered in ourselves so that we don't take the insults or the negativity coming at us, can move through us, Yeah.
I like to see people as a clean slate and let them write the story and then go from there.
Yeah. And then you get to say yes or no.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
You get to say, okay, I'll engage, or you go, I'm not going to.
Oh, Clem, look, I have loved every single minute with you. And thank you to the angels for not ruining it for us or being a part of the episode. How incredible was that?
I know.
So that timing was incredible. So thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
I'm so honored to be on your show. Thank you so much, Bindi.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram.
Miles, are you ready to record our promo for Season 2 of the Wanna Bet podcast?
David, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Miles, we're not here to quote lines from Airplane. We're here to tell people that Season 2 starts August 18th.
But I like Airplane.
I know you do, but Wanna Bet is a sports betting podcast. Each week we bet $1,000 on the NFL teams and games that we love.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It is fun. And last year you picked over 60% of your games correctly.
How'd you do?
We're not talking about that. We are telling people that they can find us every Friday. So no more movie quotes.
Roger.
Electricast.
Hey there, I'm DC. I host the rock podcast, Back to the Arena, The Interviews. It's about a 30-minute podcast where I talk one-on-one with a band who has released new music. You can find us on all the best podcast sites like Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and more. If you're a rock fan like me, subscribe today to Back to the Arena, The Interviews.